Chris Eubank Jr. defeats Conor Benn by unanimous decision in a huge, epic UK showdown. It's Paulie Malignaggi for Paulie TV. Listen, let's get right down to it. First and foremost, I think with the rematch clause, we may see a rematch of this fight. I wouldn't mind it, honestly. It was a good, entertaining fight. My opinion of these two fighters as fighters doesn't change much. I don't think either of them are really that world class. Maybe slightly on the edge of world class. I did think that the fight played out about as much as I thought it could play out in the way it would in my mind. In that, I thought that Eubank Jr. would try to old man it, especially, the struggles with the weight. He'd try to, use his better technique. And Ben would try to use that youth energy to try to, overcome him, overtake him. And when I saw the small ring, I thought to myself, okay, it could be an advantage for Ben because he's an energetic guy, but it could also be a disadvantage because, listen, Eubank is a bigger guy too, so, how much do you want to be tangling with a physically bigger guy? Will it wear you out? As the fight got started, we saw the Ben energy. That was what we expected, and that's what we saw. We saw the Ben energy. My disappointment with Conor Benn continues to be this. Okay, I don't think he's that good. Okay, and I think he's an entertaining fighter. I think he's fun. I think he throws big punches and all that good stuff. But I think he's a mediocre fighter who just has a good last name, and that's why he's there. The controversy that swirls around over his best wins still deserves to be there because if you eliminate that, he's still pretty average. And what I'm saying is this: he's got a huge balls, youth energy. He throws big punches. He's not scared to get in there and throw down. But his shot selection sucks. He's just the way his approach sucks. He falls in with every punch. He throws good right hands. Honestly, they're big right hands. He's susceptible to them. I like his balls when he throws right hands, and that he's not scared of what's coming back. He'll actually put himself out there to throw as big a right hand as he can, which can work against you. But when you have that kind of energy, the intensity can sometimes overwhelm a lesser fighter or an older fighter. So I can understand why he always does that, but he never really learns anything. He never gets better. He's just energy. He never gets better. His shot selection leaves a lot to be desired, especially when you got an older fighter like Eubank Jr. in front of you, right? If you have the approach of fighting a guy like Eubank Jr., you saw struggle to make weight, struggle to make weight. It's been documented and everything. He's also older, so he's going to be looking to old man it. He's going to be looking to be crafty and old man it. First of all, you want to get to the body early, man. I mean, I thought the attack for Ben should have easily been going to the body from the early rounds, to break down the older guy who's going to try to slow the pace and try to, maneuver the pace and then try to be crafty, with his jab and with the simpler punches. If you really look at the way the fight played out, Conor was using extra energy trying to throw the bigger, more resounding punches, the youthful, energetic punches, while Chris Eubank Jr., especially for the majority, the first thirds of the fight, was really just throwing the most simple punches. He was trying to use his jab. He wasn't turning big on the right hands or the hooks. He was just snapping them out there. Wasn't giving you big turns or big weight on any of them. Just to try to, score shots and get a little snap on the shots and try to, take control of some of the rounds. And at a certain point, he started doing that. I thought with Conor Benn, when he flies in with the right hand, you gotta eventually take away his tenacity. You gotta eventually take away his enthusiasm. And how you do that is you start to counterpunch him. You gotta start to counterpunch guys like that. Otherwise, they have no reason to doubt why they shouldn't throw these big shots so recklessly. And Conor Benn throws big shots recklessly. He throws them a lot. So it can overwhelm you if you're not good enough. But if you're good enough to stay sharp and be in that pocket and make him start paying, you can start to make him second guess himself a little bit at times. And you started seeing that with Eubank Jr. He started in around the 5th or 6th round. He started countering those right hands with a couple of uppercuts. I think it was an uppercut to the body in the 5th. There was an uppercut in the first minute of the 6th round that he landed. Eubank Jr. landed nicely, a right uppercut as he rolled with the right hand that Ben was flying in with, and you start to slow him down a little bit. Once the pace slows down, the guy old manning it now can take advantage because now Eubank Jr. we always knew was going to have the better technique, better IQ in the ring, shot selection and whatnot, and that we started to see that with the rounds he was winning. It was mostly based on shot selection and just keeping it simple, the KISS method, keep it simple, stupid. But he was able to start to overcome Ben as Ben's energy level started to decline. But in the last quarter of the fight, I thought both guys really put it on the line. And this is why I think a rematch still is worthwhile, you know? And I know they have a rematch close. It might happen, but of course, there's got to be a lot of negotiations with what weight it happens and all that other good stuff. But the final quarter of the fight really convinced me that, hey, you know what? Okay, I don't think much of these guys. I think their fathers are really responsible for such a big event, and credit to their fathers for being the amazing fighters they were. But these guys, it's not really a big deal to me. But in the final quarter of the fight, I said, you know what? It's been a pretty good fight, but this final quarter really cemented it for me. They really put on. They fought for something more. Yeah, I don't think they're that good, but they fought for something more, you know, and they fought for, and they showed that in the final quarter. They showed that in the final quarter by really putting it on the line and really going toe to toe. You know, you saw Eubank Jr. in the early rounds when he was trying to use his jab. I thought he had a lot of trouble trying to closing range. It's like when you're older, your feet don't push off, don't give you the same push off anymore, you know, especially when you struggle to make weight. And it looked like in spots, Eubank Jr., you know, was having trouble closing the gap. But Ben doesn't know how to fight in and out that well. You know, he flies in, he throws big punches. He doesn't know how to fight on that shoestring of that distance where you start to make Eubank kind of fall in consistently and make him have to push off that back foot to get in with the jab and not be able to, you know. So Ben's success was off the energy. Eubank's success was off the small crafty stuff, the subtle crafty stuff, and I think both had their measure of success in the fight. I thought the fight was close, 116, 112. Listen, it was a lot of close rounds. You could even make a case for Ben winning the fight. You can make it a draw. You can give it to Eubank. You know, it was a lot of close nip and tuck rounds. And you know, for example, in 12, okay, we saw Eubank put his balls in the line and just go for it. You know, he went for it and he pushed Ben on the ropes and he bullied him. He finally uses the bigger size and bullied him. But in round 11, I thought Ben had a pretty good round. You know, Eubank did a good in round 12 with what I just described, but I thought Ben had a pretty good round in round 11. So again, it was that nip and tuck, that final quarter of the fight, really with the high drama. Both guys, I thought, you know, with the fatigue and with the atmosphere, they really put on, and they knew what was on the line, not just as far as a big UK fight, of course, and the atmosphere of the UK fans, which is always amazing, and it was nothing short of amazing tonight. But also, I think, you know, I think the fact that, you know, they know what their last name means. It resonates to themselves first and foremost, but also in the boxing world and of course in the UK boxing scene. So I think, you know, these guys really put on it, and for that reason, I would want to watch it again. You know, honestly, I'd want to watch it again. I don't think either of these guys is world championship material. I'll say it again. I think Eubank is overall a better fighter. I don't think Ben has ever gotten really that much better. He's an energy guy, which energy guys don't really win world championships. But I'll say this. Eubank being a better fighter, I don't think he's going to win a world championship because at this point in his career, he's older, and his best bet is probably a rematch with Ben. Conor Benn, on the other hand, despite me not feeling he's that good, we're in a really weak welterweight division. Honestly, in my life, I've never seen a welterweight division this weak in my life. I don't know if there's people older than me that have seen a weaker welterweight division. I've never seen a welterweight division in my life that's this weak, honestly. So if you can put Mario Barrios and Conor Benn, which Conor Benn actually mentioned in the post-fight interview, against one another, it's actually, I could see the guy winning that fight, you know, because I don't think either of them are that good, you know. Honestly, Conor is liable to get beat by anybody, but he's got a great chin, so you're not going to really knock him out. And Mario Barrios struggles against anybody, you know? So honestly, I could, and to tell you the truth, those big right hands Conor throws, Barrios is always on the front foot. He's a tall guy who fights on the front foot, which to me is ass backwards. I don't understand how he hasn't been taught that simple technical flaw that it's terrible for anybody, let alone a tall guy. But I think those big right hands of Conor have a real chance of landing against a guy like Mario Barrios, who's, if he fights on that front foot like that. So I think there's a possibility for some success for Conor Benn if he goes to welterweight. But and honestly, for me, Eubank Jr. at this point is not a lot of places he can go. I thought he looked a little worn out, and he just really dug down on his heart and showed the character that he was, but I don't know that he can really be a threat in the middleweight division, despite the fact that the middleweight division as well is not that deep right now. I think the best bet for these two guys is to go at it again. You know, fight one another again. I think they put on a really good performance tonight as far as the entertainment value that's concerned. I think the fans will go home happy. I think everybody will agree with me in saying that it was a good fight and it was a fun fight, and we wouldn't mind seeing it again, as long as, you know, they can figure out the negotiations. Because, of course, in a rematch now, Eubank is going to have the rights to certain negotiations. He may not want to fight at 160 anymore. Maybe they'll do it at a catchweight. Maybe it'll be at 164. But the higher it goes, is it worth it for Conor Benn to fight at such higher weight classes? Maybe it's still worth it for Conor Benn just because it's just this opponent, and he has already been in the ring with this opponent. So no matter what weight they fight at, he already recognizes the opponent. So maybe you can still do it. But aside from that, I don't know. I don't know that Eubank Jr. is going to want to make 160 pounds again. So they'll have to negotiate it. But me personally, if it's not the rematch, for me, it's Conor Benn versus Mario Barrios at welterweight, and Eubank Jr. retires. But for me personally, it's the rematch. That's what I think. I want to know what you guys thought. I want to know who you guys thought won, first of all, because I think this fight could have won either way. What you guys thought of the fight? Did it live up to the hype? What you guys think of them as fighters? And I told you what I think of them as fighters overall. And where does Eubank go from here? Where does Ben go from here if they don't do the rematch? I'm Paulie Malignaggi, guys. This is Paulie T.